Well, welcome everyone again to Get This Rugby Podcast. The great man, Chew. How are you, mate?
G'day, mate. How you going? Hello to everyone out there. Get this.
Get this, India. We're into part 2 of the season reviews, episode 25. So
25.
we're going to look at the top 6, mate.
Top 6, yeah. Well,
let's start off with mate, the perennial. Let's say it as nicely as I can. The perennial non-achievers in finals, the Manly Marlins, mate, went out again in the first game of the finals to East.
Well, it's that time of year, August, September. Doesn't seem to agree with the blokes from the beach. If they played the finals at a different time of year, I'd be interested to see how they go. Because it's been going on for a long time now.
Oh, mate. Well, they've won a final. Well, next year, there'll be 10 years since they won a final. So.
But I remember when they were pretty successful. Like I remember playing them in finals as well, like years ago, and they still, they never seem to be able to get past the semis. And there you go. But,
it's something. Like I'm just thinking, like they won 12 games, but when we look at it, is there something deeper that we should be looking at? Because they won the second grade premiership this year. They've won like 20 second grade premierships. And they've won like half a dozen of them since they won a first grade premiership.
Yeah.
So
that's a really strange stat, isn't it? Like that, mate. That's probably pretty unique, isn't it?
Has to be
that sort of figure. Like I don't know. Well, they started really well this year, and then like I remember us talking about them on the show from week to week, particularly in the middle of the year, how we thought the coach would have to get therapy because they were doing crazy things in some games that they couldn't have been coached to do. It was like Jekyll and Hyde, this Manly team. They
were.
They could be really good for 20 minutes and then be bloody awful for 15 minutes. And sometimes they'd put together a whole game, rarely. They'd usually have a 10 or 15-minute period where they were shocking. But they could say they had a good game, and they did have a few good games. Yeah. Then the following week, they come out and look like Z graders. I just couldn't work it out, and I don't know how the coach dealt with it. I don't know. Is he all right?
Well, he chucked it in, mate. So maybe
he's not. He's probably in a mental institution.
He's gone something. I mean, you have a look at it like I was just having a look this afternoon. Like they've lost to South in round 14. They lost to most of the teams in the top 6. But at the same time, they beat Randwick. They beat North. They've had good wins against good sides.
Yeah, there you go.
They're prone to a shock, and it's got to be a mental thing, mate.
I don't know. They just from time to time just look like they're a rabble, like they've got no leadership on the field, and I know they have. And their skipper, there's a guy playing 7, wasn't it?
Hunter Ward, yeah.
Yeah, like he's a great player, and it just seemed to me especially when they had the ball, they just seemed to lack direction, and then they'd have really bad defensive lapses too. Like I don't know. I think they really missed. I don't know what happened to that Daly guy. They started him early in the year, then they were bringing him off the bench. I think he was a pommy, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he went home.
Mate, I'll tell you what. I think if he'd been with them the whole year, I think he was going to make that much of a difference to that team. I thought he was really good. He was a unit. He was a good player, and I think they missed him. But I don't know. It's just a mystery. Have they appointed a new coach for next year?
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember there. Sam Lane was he was a 10 that played for him for quite a while. And played a fair bit overseas. He coached the second grade apparently, so he's got the first grade job.
Oh, good one. Good luck to
him. But even we look at the semi-final against East, they led 10-0,
Yep.
But then it just fell apart.
Mate, they did that in quite a few games this year. They'd either get off to a good start, then fall to pieces, or they'd be behind by 10 or 15 and then come good. I saw a couple of teams score off the kickoff against them. It was just going, what's going on? I couldn't put my finger on any one particular thing. It was just like, I don't know. Every week it was different. It was some other problem they had. It just looked like, I suppose, mental. The players couldn't have been coached to do some of the stuff they were doing.
Yeah.
Just looked like blokes on the field who just weren't mentally tough enough or something.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
So my last question about that is, like, if you put your coach's hat on, if you were Sam Lane, what do you change for next year? Like, there's got to be changes.
Mate, I think early on that, like, their scrum was all right. Their line out was a problem all year. I thought I'd be getting the simple things right at Manly first, because they try to play expansive all the time. I just think they've got to get their set piece and their breakdown really good and play a bit of field position. Just go back to basics and work from there, and try and get that ingrained in the team. Just do not the simple things, but I suppose it is the simple things, but the standard things right. And get that right, and then start working on being fancy boys. I think, that's what they've got to do, and also their defence, like their defensive lapses were shocking. And I'd be just going back to basics at Manly and just grinding it out, and just see how you go halfway through the year. You might be a better looking team.
Yeah, they might be better off if they could maybe start a season not so well. It might be better at the back end.
Well,
they seem to start too well.
You can't just have a line out or a scrum that's okay for 20 minutes and then falls to pieces for 20 minutes, or can't play the next week like you did the week before. There's simple things you can fix, and field position you can fix that. They had a decent goal kick. But defence, that's probably the easiest thing they can fix. And you stop the other team scoring, you go a long way to winning.
That's right. So just finally, obviously you mentioned Hunter Ward. He was their captain most of the year. Willie O's young bloke that came in late in the year. He seems to be a bit of a talent.
Had a couple of good games. And
that winger, Fraser, too, he's got something about him. I don't know.
Yeah, mate, he's a goer, isn't he?
He runs hard. So,
yeah,
mate, we wish him well. I think they'll still make finals next year. They've just got to get
I don't
know.
They might have a few of those second graders in first grade next year by the sounds of it.
Well, you probably deserve it, eh? All right. So we wish everyone on.
Yep.
On the last note of that, obviously we've mentioned before about Aaron Blacklock.
I haven't heard how he is, but I haven't heard any bad information. So hopefully he's recovering.
Yeah, apparently he won't be playing again. Tragically.
No, I don't think so.
So next one is a hard one to get our head around, mate. Gordon. They end up bouncing the first week. They were unlucky. 2 games this year with a referee playing Randwick. Now you got to be feeling a bit funny if you're Gordon. Don't you? Like, you could have gone further.
Well, I think they could have easily gone. They could have made the grand final. I thought they played terrific football for most of the year. I really fancied them. Then they just lost a few, and then they got some points docked, and a couple of things happened to them, and they were a bit stiff, I thought. And I would like to have seen them get through that first week of the semis and see when they went from there, because they played sort of semis football. I thought they had that really direct style and were running hard up the middle, and they attacked around there. They didn't play static, and I really like the style of football they played this year, and they had some good players, and I don't know. They should have probably gone a little bit better than what they did, I think.
Yeah, and in the end, that 2 points they got docked, it really hurt them, because they probably could have finished second at the end of the regular season, and that probably changes things.
It was that close, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I know, speaking to the Gordon coach recently, he said mate, he's losing sleep over it because he just feels like they really had a opportunity to take
Oh,
that
yeah.
out.
Yeah. Like, they were probably outside of East. I'd say they were the most consistent team because Norths were high and low, Randwick were high and low, Riga were a bit the same, and they just got a bit unlucky, I think.
Yeah.
With that and a couple of losses they probably shouldn't have had, and they could have easily finished second. And
yeah, that's right.
With just an ounce of luck, and that was disappointing. But they had their opportunity in the semi and they didn't win. So.
Right. But they definitely had some, and they got a fairly young side they were trotted out this year. So I think most of them should be back next year, I reckon.
Yeah, I really like the way they went around their business. They had some good players. I thought Emery, that halfback, played really well this year. I liked the look of their front rowers. They were good.
Yep.
The
captain was.
What I'd like to see is the big second row with the braided hair. What's his name?
Akawola.
Yeah,
Big John. Yeah.
I just want to see someone get hold of him in the off season and just get him to hold on to the ball. He does so many good things and then coughs it up. He's got hands like feet. He needs someone to hold on to that thing like it's gold. And
just hit it up.
He tends to lose the ball in contact and stuff, and then his stats, I suppose, in that area, as far as I can remember, they cost him a few times, and he's a really good player. And I just think if he can learn how to hold onto the ball, he'll go a lot further.
Yeah, and I thought the captain Basson, he was a real tough player.
He had a great season, I thought.
Yeah, and he's been a bit of a bit part player for a few years. But this year he really come on and proved himself. So
yeah,
I mean, me and the Gordon coach disagree over him bringing the 10 in late in the year.
Yeah,
I don't think that was the best choice myself. But
no, I didn't like that. I preferred the way they had it prior to that. And I think they got found out a couple of times with that move. And what was the second round? The other guy was he playing back row? Marge.
Jack Margin, yeah.
Yeah.
Good player.
He had a good year as well. I thought they lacked a little bit of pace out wide. Like the centres to me were a little bit of a worry, but the way they played, it was okay. When they got down the other end of the field, they could still put together some stuff, and that was one thing they went away from too late in the season was the field position they used to play. They used to get teams down the other end, and it was like, good luck getting out of here because they defended really well. And they got away from that, and it cost them a couple of games, which is probably why they didn't come second. Particularly that Randwick game we were at. And there was another one as well later on the year that they lost. They started trying to run it out of their own 22, and prior to that, they were just banging it down the other end and going, good luck, here you go. And I think that cost them as well. But they went all right in some of the other grades too, didn't they?
Yeah, no, they were. I'm trying to think now. I think they were in every grade, I believe. Maybe third Colts they might have missed out on, but they were in there.
Colts were in the grand final, and
first Colts lost the grand final.
Second and third grade, I know, were in the semis.
Yeah, they went pretty deep in most grades. But yeah, they overall. I mean, when they got their coach was co-coach of the year with Hoylesy, so mate, I reckon they're going to be cracking for the premiership next year.
Oh yeah, like with the way the club's set up at the moment, they'd be looking for success next year, and I think they'll be up there for sure.
And I think if he recruits a bit, like you say, a bit more out wide, a couple more maybe in the back row, I think they
don't need much.
They don't need a lot, do they?
They've got a lot to work with there. I think they've got a pretty good unit, and they've got some guys coming through. They've probably got a couple of good Colts coming through too. They played in the grand final. Yeah. Mate, I think the future looks pretty good for Gordon next year.
No, I think I agree with you, mate. And we're interested to see how they go.
Yep.
That was Gordon. So they had 13 wins in the regular season. That's a good season in anybody's language, mate.
Oh, for sure. And it probably should have been 15 and plus 2 dock points. So
they could have easily been minor premiers.
Yeah, they could have been right up there with these, that's for sure.
So that was.
I think it might have made their life a little bit easier in the semis had that happened. But anyway,
yeah, I think so.
Didn't happen, and that's the way it goes.
That's life. Yeah, that's rugby.
Yep.
Now the next one, mate, Randwick. They were premiers last year, but this year, they lost to North in the prelim final. So I thought. I'll just go before you. I thought overall in this season, I felt they were 5 or 10% off from last year.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that, and I think Horsey, when you spoke to him, was sort of the same opinion, wasn't he?
Yeah.
They just weren't quite right, were they?
Yeah, I don't know whether is it a motivation thing when you've won it the year before. Do you think? I wouldn't think so.
I don't think so. They had roughly the same side, didn't they?
Yeah, it was pretty much.
And I don't know. It was because they sort of started slow, and then they looked good, and then they went through a slump, and then they came good at the right end, and they. But even when they were good, they just weren't. They weren't quite as good as the year before, were they?
No, I just felt like they were a bit off.
Yeah. And I think it's only a small margin, and they. I didn't think their defence was as good as it was last year. Although they did have some good defensive games, I thought they let in a few soft tries this year that they weren't doing the year before. But, they had some good players. Like, Houston had another monster year. He's a good player, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
And I thought that Ellis, was it one of the breakaways?
Yeah, Joel Ellis. Yep.
I thought he played really well. Their front row was really good again. I thought they had a great season. Deegan obviously played well again, of course.
Ken Catchpole. Yep.
Yeah. They didn't really have any weaknesses. They just didn't win the big games, I suppose. It's how it goes, I guess.
And they lost a few games. Like they lost to Warringah, I think, early in the season. Then they lost to Manly. They lost to North. They beat East twice this year.
Yeah, they had a good on East, didn't
they? So East would have been relieved when they didn't make the grand final, I reckon.
Yeah, I reckon so. Would it? Well, I think the week before, I think we both picked them to. I think I did. I can't remember now, but it wouldn't have surprised me if they'd got up and beat North and been in the grand final. But
even in round 17 when they lost to Eastwood at home, I mean, where did that come from? I mean, that was just
They just had those moments this year where they just weren't right. Where they got run down. Eastwood they had no right to win that game. That was a Coogee as well, and
it was Coogee,
and it was really strange. That was a really strange season from Randwick. I thought they'd be there right at the end, and it was like they were struggling to get there all the time. It was like you say, it was just like they weren't quite there all the time. They looked a bit frustrated too, I thought, and I think that's just because they weren't playing as well as they knew they could, I think.
Yeah, I think they were just a bit down in something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I've said this to people in the last last week or so, and I just really get the feeling if Randwick made that grand final, they win it. They beat East. Like, that's nothing against North. I'm not having a go at North. But I'm just saying, I just felt like Randwick and East matched up differently.
Yeah, it was probably a better matchup. Yeah. And I think, I would have probably tipped Randwick against them if they made the grand final.
Yeah, especially the way they'd beaten them a couple of times. I mean, it's sad for us. The great man Hoylesy, he's stepped down.
Yeah, he's had a couple of good years, hasn't he? Like, he can't do much more than what he did, and he's left him in a really good spot for the new fella to take over.
Yeah, Sean Byrne, former Randwick player.
So they'll be all right, mate.
I believe Hoylesy's got a couple of young blokes that play rugby too. I believe I'm not 100% on that one. Someone told me. So he might be going back. He said something to me about bloody one of the local clubs. He was going to go back and watch his boys play or something.
Yeah, why not? It only happens once, so yeah.
But he said he was he'll be back. He'll be back coaching at a high level. He'll be back. He said he felt like it was time to give back to the family, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. Why not?
A great bloke though.
Great bloke, and obviously a very good coach.
And obviously, Chew, we don't praise. Well, no, with your days with the two Blues, mate, we don't praise Randwick people too much.
Oh, look, the thing is, we respected them, and it was always they were always a good opponent, and that was it. I didn't hate Randwick. Everyone wanted to do what they could do, and that's what we wanted to do. So they're always good contests.
That's right, and I think the highlight of the year for me, mate, when we went to Coogee and seeing you and Poido, that was probably my highlight of the year, I reckon.
No, that was a real good day. It all started well when we got a car park right outside the ground.
That was the best part of the day.
Then we got looked after really well at Randwick, and
everyone was friendly. And
good bunch of people there, and then getting together with Poido, I hadn't seen him for a little while. That was great.
Yeah,
so it was good fun.
We'd expect Randwick to be up there again next year.
Oh, right? For sure. Look, their lower grades are okay, and they've got the coach they got now as a Randwick bloke. They always seem to get their guys from inside, which is good. It's a good way to run your club. And look, they'll be all right. I've got no doubts that they'll be around there. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, good luck to everyone there. The next one was a real good news story for the year, mate. Warringah.
Yeah.
They were 10th in 2023, and then they've essentially finished third this year. So 13 wins, 4 losses, and 1 draw. I mean, Josh Holmes did him.
He did a great job, didn't he?
Marvellous job, mate.
Yeah, and I think Warringah really got out of the gate early, and I think they shocked a few teams. Like, I don't think people are expecting them to be as good as they were.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't until a bit later, like 4 or 5 games, 6 games, or whatever it was, till I think teams started waking up to them.
Yeah,
because they just had such a big go all the time. And the footy they played early in the season, chucking it round, and they were doing some crazy blindside stuff, which was great. And I really liked the way they played this year. They played really good footy. They had a few slumps during the year and whatnot, like most clubs, but they've got to be happy with that year.
Yeah, they got to, and that's got to build them, And they played a bit like I expected a Josh Holmes team to play, like sort of up tempo, good ball movement, a bit of energy. Yeah. That's how he was
never afraid to have a go, and like I've never seen a bloke take so many quick taps in my life. So they're always going to try things, and that's just his style,
Yeah, and they even in the prelim final, I mean, he speed them on the bell. I mean, he's had to bloody work hard to win that game.
For sure, and they when they lost to Norse in that extra time game too, that could have gone the other way, and unfortunately, I think they just ran out of gas at the end, all their big fellas, and I think they just had a few things too that they can fix next year. Their line out and scrum probably needs work, but how good a kick is that 5'8"? I don't think I've seen a bloke swing his boot like that. He hits it like a really good golf swing. Just looks like he's not even putting effort into it. And if he can improve his game on the field, they'll be very dangerous, because he's got room to improve in his general play, but his kicking is sensational.
Yeah, and they from what I can tell, they're a reasonably young side. They've got a couple of older guys there, but I think they pretty much all be running around next year, from what I can gather.
Yeah, well, you want to after having a year like that. They probably think they've got unfinished business, and I'd expect them to be good for the next couple of years. There's no doubts about. There's no reason why they shouldn't be good next year.
Yeah, and you got a
Holmes is
couple.
backing up again, isn't he?
Yeah, he's coaching again.
I wonder if all his assistants, because he had a pretty good crew of assistants with him.
Yeah, they had Mark Gerard and Boyd Killingworth, and but he had a good crew. Like, yeah, look at it like Wes Thomas, the hooker. He had a really good year.
Yeah.
Big Sam Thompson, mate. He was good. The big Scott.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tomo. His missus is having a baby soon, so shout out to the big fella. Zach Barnabas, mate, probably the best 7 in the comp overall. He was a great over.
Yeah, he's good on the ball. He's there's not much of him. He played pretty well.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned the 10. Tyson Davis probably had his best season in probably 3 or 4 years. So, and the captain Ben Maher at the back, he was good.
Yeah, he was carrying a few injuries during the year too. So hopefully he's fit and healthy for next year.
So that's something I wanted to ask you. Like you mentioned about how they started really well. Do you think in a way they started too well?
I don't know. Like it's always good to get a good start because that kept them up there during the year. Because you have a slump after that, which they did a couple of times. Those early wins are so important, I reckon. If you can win sort of 4 of your first 5 games, geez, it sets you up pretty well. And but I think the rest of the comp started wising up to the way they played by mid-season, sort of thing. It got a lot harder then, and a lot of those guys in that team hadn't been in the position they were in, and it's a long season. But they'll be better for that for next year.
Yeah, no, I think they will, and I think they'll be up there again.
Yeah,
top 4. I mean, they.
Mm.
And you know what?
Definitely, I couldn't see them missing out in the 6 next year.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it have been interesting if they did knock East off in that prelim and it was Warringah and North in the grand final? That would have been interesting.
Yeah,
I think Holmesy probably lose sleep over thinking about that. I mean, think about it, they were 1 minute from being in the grand final.
Yeah, it's
would
close,
be hard to take.
So that was look, they had a great year, and good luck to them. I think they'll be pretty good next year too.
Yeah, and shout out to everyone at the Rats. We enjoy.
Yep.
I haven't been to the Rat Park for a couple of years. I have to get out there.
Yeah, I went the year before, didn't go this year, so we'll have to get over there next year.
Yeah. All right, so let's do it, mate. This is probably a difficult one to do, but North, mate, runners up in the grand final. Heartbreak for them. We feel for them, but you know what? I think overall, when you look at their season, especially in the regular season, they were up and down like yo-yos. That's why they finished 5th.
Oh, for sure.
If they could have been a bit more consistent during the season, I think they would have had an easier time in the semis.
Well, like we say about Gordon, but North's were like they had some games that were terrible.
Yeah,
terrible. Like that game against Para, I don't think I've seen a second half by North in the recent past where they played like that, and then they came so good at the end. Like they could have quite easily won the comp, but I just, I don't know how they're going to go next year. I don't know. That one's got to be hard to take, I think. But like you say, had they been more consistent during the year and finished 1 or 2, I think life's a little bit different there. You still got to win, but they damn near did, because we've been talking about teams having to string three games together. East were about the only team during the year who did string 3 games together. The rest of that group of teams, I don't think did.
No.
It was,
but how mentally do the players get over that sort of game? It's got to be hard.
Look, I can understand it. I only ever lost 1, and I can understand why I thought they'd probably get there this year, just wanting it after losing 1. But after losing 2, when you probably could have quite easily won 2,
yeah,
mate, I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy. I haven't been in that spot, but
it's got to be hard.
I suppose you just got to get on with business, and I think it'll depend on the crew of blokes they got too. But look, Norths are a good setup, and I can't see them going south too much. I think they're still going to be around. They're too good a club at the moment. I think the way they run, the coaching, the players they got. If they hold on to the majority of that team, they'll be around.
Yeah, and I think from what I'm hearing, the only guys that are possibly could be retiring are Sam Kitchen and maybe Harry Bury, but I think they're trying to talk Harry Bury out of that.
I'd love to see him move to 5'8" and control the play from there. I just think I reckon he'd kill it at 5'8", and it'd probably put another year or two on his career. I think.
Yeah, and I'd love to see.
He can direct play. I think right now, move him to 5'8", and I reckon he'd enjoy that.
I'd love to see someone sit Jude Gibbs down in the off season and get him to watch every game he played in 2024 and point out what he's not doing, because there was a lot.
Yeah,
just without having a go at the bloke, I'm just saying, compared to 2023, if he compared the 2 years, he was poor this year.
He just wasn't taking the ball forward and running onto the ball. He stands still and passes and runs sideways. He's just got to get some direct play in him, and that's all he needs to do. He's obviously a skillful player, and he's obviously a good player. He just needs some coaching at the moment, I think. And
if I was North, I'd get Parksy in there.
Mate, you need something
to teach him, because that's what they need.
Yeah, I'm starting to think if they could move Brewery to 10, they could push Gibbs back to fullback.
Yeah,
I think he'd be more comfortable there, where he can just get the ball, he can kick it around, he can inject himself when he wants to. I just think at 5'8" at the moment he's a bit lost, and I just think, and it happened in the finals when the Breweries moved into first receiver, even from broken player. Gee, they look different, and they just went forward, and
he was almost playing 15 in the finals when you think about it.
Yeah, well, they drop him back in defence all the time. But some of their blokes had a great. I thought their Lucette prop had a sensational season. The Scotsman.
Yeah, definitely did.
Sam Kitchen had a good year. Margin was good. He just needs to learn how to throw a ball, and he needs to learn how to hold one when he's scoring a try.
Yeah, that was a heartbreak.
It's a bit cruel, but it's true.
Yeah, it was hurt.
He made a lot. He does make a lot of errors, and that, I think if he can get the errors out of his game, he's a class act. Sinclair played really well. Their 7 and 8 came good in the second half of the year because they really needed to. They were missing in action. Well, I know they had some injuries, but the 8 wasn't as good as he was the year before. But later in the season, he played good.
Yeah. And Henry O'Donnell at 13, mate.
Wow.
He looks like he could be anything, right?
Oh yeah. I just hope
Wallaby coming.
Who's he playing with now?
We're playing with Waratahs next year. So
I just hope they don't ruin him like they do with a lot of blokes.
Yeah, hopefully they just start him there and leave him there.
Yeah, well, I just hope he doesn't become a professional trainer wrapped in cotton wool and doesn't play rugby.
Yeah,
but that try scored in the grand final, sensation.
Yeah, no, definitely was.
He's got some talent, that kid, and I just hope they use him right and just, for God's sake, don't wreck him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, one thing that was never mentioned by anyone, the back end of the season, they had Nathan Russell injured, so that's a big player, that they could have used.
Oh, for sure.
And so I don't think they've got to improve much to be back there again.
No. I'm not sure. Their second grade wasn't that good this year, was it?
No, they were. I think they made the finals, but got knocked out in the first.
Did they? Okay, yeah. So I think it'll just depend on how many guys they retain from that team. Hopefully, most of them. And I don't know how their Colts went. Did they go any good?
No, not too good. That's been an ongoing problem for a few years.
Colts always goes in cycles, and
I
think Gordon and North seem to fight over which Colts team goes well and which club gets the players coming through from schools and stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe they've got to do a bit of work with their Colts and get them firing again. But I'm sure they'll be all right. The coach is staying, isn't he?
Yeah, Zach Beers in another year. Yep.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so no, I don't think they've got to improve much. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Kitchen plays again, especially having played so well.
Yeah, I spoke to him after the game I went to, and over after the game, and he said he was thinking about it, and I told him you're a long time retired, and I thought that was the best season he's had for a while. And
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
and I thought he played pretty well. So it'd be a great bloke to have around. Like, even if they use him off the bench, it wouldn't hurt. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Having some experience there, but look, they'll be all right. I think. Just be interesting to see how many blokes they keep, and if they recruit anyone.
Yeah, they've recruited bits and pieces in recent years, but haven't gone really hard. So maybe they'll look at doing that. But we'll be interested to see who they keep. Yeah.
Well, I think the last probably 3 years that the nucleus of that team's been there, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much been the same players. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that Gersikowski came in last year, but mostly the 7 was new this year. But he was really good at the back end.
Mate, yeah. Well, I really like the way he goes about business. He's a good player.
Yeah. Well, mate, the final team, maybe the most controversial team of the year, but the Premiers, they can laugh at everyone else. Is Eastern Suburbs, mate. They got the job done.
Sure did. You can go first on this one, mate.
Well, mate, you got to be fair. Like, the player points, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think they've ended up winning. I think it'd end up 11 straight wins.
Yeah.
With the grand final, so you can't really say much except it's probably they were the best side.
What they lose 3 games?
Yeah, there wouldn't have been many.
Wouldn't have been any more than 4, I don't think.
Four losses.
4 losses. That's a pretty good year, isn't it?
And you'd
take that every year, wouldn't you?
14 wins, and then they've won 3 finals, so they've won 17 games out of 21. They were stacked with Waratahs players, but that's happened in the past and not worked.
Oh, that's right. Look, that's happened with them for a lot of years, even when I was playing, and it happened with a few clubs, but specifically it was them a lot. This is probably one of the first times I've actually seen it work. And I think it was because they got a lot of them back early.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, particularly the way New South Wales went, a lot of them don't come back till later, and sometimes when you put blokes in the sides, it doesn't work out. But good luck to them. They made it work this year when they got those guys back, and then they just had a really good bench as well, didn't they?
Yeah, and they, and you think about like the grand final, like Jack Grant didn't even get on the field. So,
mate, well, a bloke like him, he'd be a walk-in start-up first grader any other club.
That's right.
Just about, I think.
And you got to take your hat off to like Ben Batcher and Billy Melrose and Jed Gillespie, mate. They did a good job, mate. They won the comp, but no one can take it away from them. So.
Oh, that's right. I know that there's a lot of talk. There's a stain over their whole season because apparently there's talk about it. This point thing was an ongoing thing all year, and well, it's in the history books now, so you can't do nothing about it. It's done, and it's not the players' fault, and or the coaches really. That was they did what they had to do, and they did it well. They were a funny sort of team to watch. They weren't real flashy, and they just sort of played simple footy and did things right. I guess it was they were just consistent, I suppose.
I think especially in the last half of the year, they were very solid in their forwards.
Yeah.
Which really, and had a couple of standouts in there, like Charlie Gamble and Adamson, the Pommy guy.
Yeah.
The hooker is a good player.
Yeah,
they just like even look in the grand final, like you never felt like they were playing super well, but they just scored when they needed to.
Yeah,
North didn't do that.
Yeah, they were an interesting team to watch this year, and one thing they did improve about what might have been the back third of the season was their defence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their defence was shaky for a good half of the season, maybe a bit longer, and they were pretty. They let in a lot of soft tries, and their defence in the last probably 6 weeks of the comp really improved.
It seemed like that game where Randwick beat them 50-37. After that, something seemed to change.
Yeah, well, obviously did some more defensive drills, I suppose.
Yeah, must have.
But they defended like, if you looked at their defence from early in the year or halfway through to the later in the year, it was like chalk and cheese. Their defence, and it had to improve. If their defence hadn't improved, they wouldn't have won the comp.
No, absolutely no.
It wouldn't have mattered how many Wallabies or anyone, Waratahs or whoever was playing from. If your defence is no good, you ain't going to win.
And you have a look at the halfback Teddy Wilson at the back end of the year. He was really good.
Geez, he had a good year, didn't he?
Yeah, and Jack Bowen was a little bit up and down, but I guess pretty solid for the year.
He was good enough behind that team, and
And they had
the fullback kicking goals from everywhere, or the winger, or what it was.
He came in about 2/3 into the season as well, and Fabian Goodall at 12. That was probably a move I didn't expect.
Yeah, well, he played pretty simple, and that's all he was going to do. But he served a purpose for him. It'd be interesting to see if he runs around again next year.
Yeah, as I was saying, I did looking through their team. Most of them look like they'll be around again. Some quite young guys like Goodall, maybe Chris Bell. There's some talk he might go back to England, but apart from that, they had a decent bench. The front row was good. Their scrum was good.
Yeah,
most of the year. I thought.
I'd be surprised if Grandy's young bloke stays there, because he's got to play first grade somewhere.
Yeah, well, he's signed with the Waratahs again, so you'd think he's going to have to. I don't know.
Where's Wilson? Where's Wilson signed? Is he signed anywhere?
Yeah, he's signed there as well. They've got 3 halfbacks for the Waratahs, which I don't understand.
So that ain't going to work. Someone's got to go. So
yeah, they can't both play at the same club. You wouldn't think.
Nah. Well,
if I was Jack,
not in his best interest to play there. If you can't even get a run, you've got to go somewhere else.
And you know what? Probably halfway through the year, you would have said, if you were selecting that team, that Jack Grant was probably ahead of Wilson. But by the end of the year, it was the opposite. It was the other way around. So
yeah, well, it helps when the other bloke's not playing. Like Wilson played. I think I saw the game where he came on, and he played well. And I don't think he ever gave the job up after that. And that's the way it goes sometimes. There was a good call by them, I suppose, because he probably won him a few games single-handedly there on the run in. And
well, if I was another club in the Shute Shield and you're looking for a 9, I'd go to Jack Grant and offer him to go there, because he's going to be a lot of times he's not playing for the Waratahs if he's the third halfback.
The way things are looking, they'll keep the bloke they've already got, and then Wilson would probably be next in the pecking order. So
you're going to be number 3.
Hopefully he gets allowed to go play club footy somewhere, because that's what he needs. He doesn't need to be sitting there watching other blokes play.
Yeah, that's right.
Blokes need footy, and I don't know what clubs would be interested. I think a lot of clubs would be interested in him, but where he'd be interested in going to be the thing, I suppose.
Well, I know he wouldn't go to Randwick. That'd be heresy.
Well, he's originally from the country. Like Granny's from Orange, and
Orange. Yeah.
So I don't know what club needs a halfback at the moment.
Probably maybe Manly, something like that. I could think maybe Manly could do with another halfback. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my interest next year will be how many of these Waratahs guys come back next season, because I think the Waratahs got a no offense to DC, they've got a better coach next year. They've got Dan McKellar, used to go to Brumbies. They're going to have a better year, I believe. So they may not get as many coming back, or if they do, it might be later.
Yeah, and who knows? Like, if they make the semis and that, do they do what they've done in past years and then don't let guys play club football? I hope they do, because it's ridiculous what they do. They've got to have a rest and all this stuff. Like, they've got months to have a rest. It's it'll be interesting just to see what happens. Because is Batcher backing up there again?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Well, look, if they get the majority of that team back, they're going to be pretty strong, aren't they?
Well, they're going to probably have a chance to go around again.
Yeah. Well,
good luck to them.
They'd have to. dead set have to have a shocker to miss out on being in the semis. I'd imagine. But
So how about a way too early call, mate? Who's your premiers for next year? Gordon, yep. I'm going to say Warringah.
Right.
Because I think Holmesy will recruit even more this year, but I think they'll get stronger.
Yeah, and I think the team that might drop out of that 6 could possibly be Manly.
Yeah, you could be right.
Maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think they're probably the team on the cliff. I think, but
I reckon West Harbour might sneak into the 6 next year.
Well, West will be strong. I think Newcastle, like we said yesterday, I'm tipping probably Eastwood and Newcastle will be the big improvers. And Uni will probably be around too. So
yeah, no, it'll be another big year.
But I can't see that top 5 changing too much, unless one of those teams really loses a lot of blokes, like if North lose half their team or something, or But I just think they're still going to be strong. All those 5. Manly's the team that worries me, but they might come good too. Who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that pretty
That's
much
it, isn't it?
That pretty much wraps up our season, mate. That's 2024 in a nutshell.
Yeah. And
it's been a good year for us, mate.
Yeah, it's been fun, and next year we hope to have some comments coming through while we're doing it, and hopefully we'll get to do a few interviews at games and stuff, and
we'll
just
ramp it up
go to the next level.
Yeah, we'll improve. Got to keep improving, mate, as they say.
Yeah, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll start doing the Yesterday's Heroes thing.
Yep.
So we'll do that during the off season, and then so we'll be around. So thanks for everyone who's had a look at us.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone that's subscribed and liked our page and watched it. There's been a lot of good competitions and good what am I talking about? Comments,
yeah.
And so thanks to you two for the season.
No worries, you too, mate. It's been we've had a lot of fun. Actually, it's funny. It went quicker than I thought.
We'd never got banned. We never got censored.
No. Managed not to offend anyone too much, I guess.
No, everyone's taken even if we had our go at someone, they seem to take it pretty well. Yeah,
well, we've got to remember, like, we're just talking about footy, and it's nothing we say is personal. It's just, football's hard. Like, you got to be able to hear the truth sometimes, or what my opinion of the truth might be, or yours. It's just our opinions, and we definitely don't mean any harm to anyone. That's for sure. No,
and we do it because we love the game and we love the people.
Yeah.
And the club. Yeah. So we wish everybody well for a big off season.
Look out, we might have our gridiron show coming up. So
yeah, hopefully that'll kick off soon.
Give me something to do in the summer.
Yeah, go and watch the game this morning, mate. It was a good game.
Don't tell me the score. I've got to watch.
All right, mate. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, mate. See you later, everyone.
Yeah, this.